Good afternoon, everyone. So last time we talked about diglossia. Okay. So we spoke about the features of diglossia. Okay. Now let's just recapitulate quickly. So what are these features? The characteristics of diglossia that we mentioned last time. First one, function. Okay. What does it mean, function? Yes, please. Please, can you help so that we listen to answers? Yes? Again? Again? The role of the language, okay, inside the community. Yes, any other more precise function? What did we say about function? So how many varieties do we have in a diglossia situation? We have the, yes, high variety and the low variety. Now, where do we use the high variety? In formal context. And where do we use the low variety? Informal. In informal context. Good. So that's that's the first one. Function. Next feature, prestige. What did we say about prestige? Which one? So to go quickly, because if I let you just think, you spend too much time thinking. Now, the one do we consider more prestigious? The low or the high variety? Next feature. Literary heritage. Which one has got more literary heritage? High variety. Next feature? Acquisition. Which one do we acquire as a first language? Low variety, while we learn the high variety in school or at school. Next feature? Standardization. Now, what do we mean by this feature? Which one or which variety has got grammar books, high variety, whereas the low variety doesn't have very much, okay, very little done about it. Next feature, stability. What do we mean by stability of a diglossia situation or diglossic situation? Yes. It talks about the development of the situation. Now, concerning diglossia, it means that diglossia is stable. It doesn't change, okay? So it doesn't die, for example, or disappear. It stays for hundreds of years, okay? And it might develop into new versions, but it is still alive, okay? Next feature, the grammar. High variety has grammar and books of grammar, whereas the low one, not, okay, too much. Next feature, lexicon. What about the lexicon? The lexicon, what's the matter with the lexicon? One at a time. Okay, it doesn't have lexicon. It has one. Yes. Okay, standardized, yes. Yes, and so the high variety has got some lexicon that does not exist in the low variety. For example, when you are learning, you remember last time we talked about biology, العلوم طبيعية, or mathematics. What language do we use here? We use the high variety. So therefore, when you use it for these disciplines, you have some vocabulary which you don't have in the low variety. The low variety, if you want to use it for mathematics or any scientific thing, you don't have the vocabulary for it. And vice versa, you can have the low variety has got some vocabulary that is relevant to its informal situations for which you don't have an equivalent in the high variety. Why? Because we use the low variety in intimate, everyday life communication where we don't use the high variety. So it sounds normal to have something like this. Yeah? Next feature, phonology. What's the problem with the phonology? Yeah? Same source. So both varieties, they come from the same source of the system. The phonological symptom sounds, okay, common. Any other feature we haven't mentioned? Now, that's a quick recap about diglossia, okay? I don't want to go again into the issue of extended diglossia by Fishman, So you need to take that into account. So for today, I'm going to focus on one of the main topics of investigation for sociolinguists, okay, which is language choice and code switching. Because we know that in our community, when we are using language, especially for our context, Morocco, which is a multilingual country, we have a number of languages. We have Amazigh, we have Moroccan Arabic, we have Standard Arabic, French, Spanish, German, English, etc. So, because of this diversity of languages existing, so there is this issue or phenomenon of language choice and code switching. We have people shifting from one language to another, changing from one code to another in different ways, in various contexts. So we are going to learn about this issue and why it happens and how it happens somehow. So language choice in communities, it is related to the various domains. It refers to typical habits of language use in a speech community. I'm going to start with an example related to a foreign speech community, which is in Hong Kong. Now, in this place, they use Chinese, the Chinese people use Cantonese at home. Good? So that's domain, home. When you are talking about home, or you're talking about classroom, these are domains, okay? Parliament, okay? The cafe, so these are domains or contexts, in other words. So the language choice in communities is different from one domain to another, okay, by the speakers. For example, in Singapore, the Chinese people, they use Cantonese, which is a version of Chinese, at home. When they are at home discussing their family topics, entertainment, intimate topics, they use they use Cantonese. Indians in Singapore use English in education. Another domain, which is education, and which is a manifestation of one of the language, shifting, or not language shifting, but code switching, okay, choosing one language variety from another one. So the Indians in Singapore, they use English in education. Chinese in Malaysia use Bahasa for government business. Another domain, which is government places, where you do your government business, administration, you know, when you need some official papers like certificate of birth or something like that. So they use, Bahasa, another Chinese language variety for government business. So as you can see here, these are a few examples of different domains. And as you can see, people in each domain, they choose one variety rather than another. I want you, as an activity for you, before I move to the next slide, I want you to think about your context and try to tell me what happens for your context. Okay? Now, for example, in our context, Morocco, especially in this area where we are, the Sousse area. Now, when people are at home, what variety they use? What language variety they use? When they are in education, different types of, or context of education, what language do they use? And when they go for government tasks, like papers and so on, or business, what language varieties do they use? Can you think about this and try to tell me? I give you some time, think about it. Think about yourself, what do you do? Okay? And in this, because I want to show you what a sociolinguist does. This is exactly what a sociolinguist does. He just thinks about the situation where he is and then tries to analyze it to explain what happens in terms of language use in different domains. Take some time. Yeah, for you you are quick, so but let's give the others a chance to finish. And you can focus just on these domains here, which you have in this example: home, education, government, business, or administration. Good. Now, what do you think about in this area of SUS area? What language is used at home? Tamazight. Okay. Yeah, it depends on your ethnic background. But for this area, because there are many Amazigh people, so they use Tamazight at home. But if you are not Amazigh, so you use Moroccan Arabic, your native or mother tongue, to make it more general. To make it more general, we use our mother tongue in our homes because that's our intimate language. And when we are in an intimate context or in an intimate domain, we use our intimate language, which is our mother tongue. For Amazigh, they use Tamazight. And for Arabophones, they use Moroccan Arabic. Now let's move on to education, different environments of education. Now think about high school, okay? Forget about, because university you have different departments, so it's quite complex. But think about high school or middle school or primary school. Let's think primary school, for example. What is the language used? Moroccan Arabic, and also some stage French. So we start with Moroccan Arabic, and then later stage we move on to French. So that's another domain where we use a different language variety. So you can see that our language choice is based on the domain where we are. Good? Now let's move on to government administration or business and companies or whatever. Standard Arabic again and French. Okay, Standard Arabic and French. So that's also another example that shows that our language choice is determined by the domain where we are. So that's exactly what I put for you here. So what you have mentioned. So again, domains refer to typical habits of language use in a speech community. So when we are at home, Amazigh in SUS area, they use Tamazight, or if you are Arabophone, you use Moroccan Arabic. So we use, and also these Amazigh, they use Standard Arabic in education, they use Standard Arabic and French for government tasks, administration, or if you are going to a company or whatever, use French, okay, in both. So this is the situation for the area where we are. Another thing that we should keep in mind when talking about these variables here, like domain, like formal, informal, it doesn't mean that they are separated. For example, here we are talking about domain. It doesn't mean that it is separated from formal, informal, the idea of formal and informal. Because if you look at these domains, some domains are formal and others are informal. So the issues we are talking about, they are interrelated. So we're just doing here is just simply for clarity, for your understanding, we're talking about things separately. But when you go to context, they are interrelated. All variables are interrelated. You can talk about age or gender or formal, informal, and ethnic background. So they all come together into, maybe not all at the same time, but many are involved together, okay, in a speech situation. Now, when we move to talk about language choice among individuals, we start talking about what is called code switching. When we focus on the individual and the way the individual uses his or her language, we talk about code switching. And code switching simply means changes of code or variety by individuals. Think about yourself. You are all examples of this. When you are talking in different places, what do? You change your language variety. Okay? And that's code switching. You change from one language variety to another because of different variables related to society, etc. So that's code switching. People sometimes switch codes within a domain or social situation at home, even if you are in one domain which is intimate for you, where you might tend to use mostly your mother tongue, be it Amazigh or Moroccan Arabic. At some point in your discussion, you might change your code. Maybe because of the topic, you talk about some other topic that is technical, so you tend to change it. And then you use a different language variety from your mother tongue. Code switching is not arbitrary. When you are code switching, it's not because just like that. It has no reason. Arbitrary. No. There is always a reason behind that. Even if you might not see it, even if it's not clear for you, and there is a reason for that. And that's the purpose of sociolinguistics. There are not only sociolinguistics, but linguistics in general. There are many things that we take for granted that are implicit for us. The purpose of a linguist, and here since we are talking about sociolinguistics, the purpose of a sociolinguist is to try to make what is implicit, taken for granted, to make it clear, explicit, in an organized way. Hence, they talk about the fact that language use among individuals, like code switching we are talking about in here, is not arbitrary. They tell you that it has a reason, even if you don't see it, but it has a reason. Because as soon as the sociolinguist starts telling you, this is the reason, you tell him, yes, you're right, you agree. And that's what you have been doing since the beginning of this class. When I'm talking to you about variables, what do? You start nodding like this. Because something implicit for you, you have it in mind, it's taken for granted, we make it explicit and we discuss it explicitly in an organized way. So, sociolinguists, they say that code switching is not at all arbitrary. There is always a reason behind any code switching, even if it's not that evident or clear for you when you are talking or even if you are thinking about it. It refers to a choice made by the individual. Social factors influence these choices. So when you are code switching, when you are moving from one choice of language variety to another choice of another language variety, that is to say, when you are code switching, there is a reason, and those reasons are related to social factors. It is social factors that influence your choices, your code switching. Before I move on again, I want you to think about it and think about a situation where you tend to do this code switching, or anybody else tend to do this code switching, and try to tell me what do you think could be the reasons for that code switching as an activity before we go into the explanation. Think about it, okay? Think about a situation where that comes to your mind where you or anybody code switches, and try to think about what could be the reason behind that code switching. Think about yourself. Okay, I think it would be better if you just think about yourself when you are moving around from shop to cafe to administration here to administration, government administration, or business, or reading a book, or library, and then you tend to switch, code switch at home. What could be the reasons behind your code switching? Okay. Any examples? Any examples, please? Any situation where there is code switching. Do you code switch? Yes. Where do you think you code switch? How? For example, you are sitting in the cafeteria or in the library, I think this is for any cafe. And then you are revising, okay? Now what happens? You can talk about different things. Now, yeah, please give me a situation. Okay, I don't want to say things, but I want something to come from you. You don't code switch? Huh? No, come on. You code switch. You code switch. You have Moroccan Arabic, you have Tamazight, you have French, you have English. You do code switch. Certainly. Yes, please. Anyone? Yes?
Sometimes the code switch not to be understood by someone.
Yes. This is one of the reasons for code switching. You are, for example, Amazigh, and then you are sitting with somebody who doesn't understand Amazigh. It happens. So what do? You don't want the other person to understand something, so you can say it in Amazigh, okay, or Tamazight, okay. And yeah, this is one way, one example of code switching. Yes. When you are sitting in a cafe, what language do you use? Moroccan Arabic. But then if you start talking about sociolinguistics, English. So you code switch. Okay? You code switch. So here the topic is one reason behind code switching. For example, let me give you an example of code switching of two businessmen. Okay, these two businessmen, they code switch from French to Arabic or vice versa when they discuss a business topic. Okay, if the latter changes to home matters or personal problems, then they may switch, for example, to Moroccan Arabic or Amazigh. Okay, now some business people or teachers, when they are discussing about some technical topics, so they tend to use, for example, English, if you're like us, belonging to a department of English. But when we tend to change or to talk about personal matters, or because we are friends, we shift to Moroccan Arabic or Tamazight if they are Amazigh people. Okay? An example of code switching is as follows. Le dirham a été dévalué. هذه جوج المرات ولا ثلاثة. As an example, it's taken from one of the chapters. Okay. Le dirham a été dévalué. هذه جوج المرات ولا ثلاثة. This is what we keep doing all the day, especially young people. When you are talking, just everything is mixed together. Okay. So I think I will stop it there as an example of code switching. So you can understand that code switching, as it is mentioned in this slide, is not arbitrary, it has a reason. And this is what we are going to see in the following slides. In much of the literature, code switching is at a clause or sentence level. Code switching is at a clause or sentence level. Let's say like this one. Le dirham a été dévalué هذه جوج المرات ولا ثلاثة. So like you have one clause finishing, the following clause is in a different language. So code switching, according to some definitions, some descriptions of code switching. While code mixing is within a sentence. When you are talking within one sentence, okay, one clause, you are mixing. You are speaking Amazigh, and then you enter one word in our Moroccan Arabic or French or English. So it is within a sentence. It doesn't mean that until you finish a sentence, then you begin another sentence in a different language. No, within one sentence, we have a change in code. We call it code mixing. So that's one of the differences, according to some, between code switching and code mixing. But sometimes they are used interchangeably. Okay, code switching or code mixing. Good. Move on. Now, concerning the variables, the social factors or the social variables that can affect or influence or play a role in code switching, these are some of them. It could be related to the participant, to the person to whom you are talking. You are with your friend, then somebody appears, maybe somebody formal, so you tend to change your, you code switch from one informal variety to another formal variety. The topic as well, as we have mentioned, like you are sitting together, friends, you are using Tamazight or Moroccan Arabic, then at some point in time you start talking about a technical subject, like your field, what you are studying now, sociolinguistics. Then what do? You shift or you change your code from Tamazight or Moroccan Arabic to English. Affective functions, they have to, and solidarity, they are related together. Affective functions, it's related to affection. Okay, solidarity. For example, when you are sitting together, then you are speaking to, you have Moroccan Arabic, but mostly, predominantly, they are Amazigh background. When somebody else is added to the group from an Amazigh background, so you change all from Moroccan Arabic to Amazigh, okay? Because of this affective function. Also, it's related to home, to intimacy, intimate domains, like home. When you are at home, because of the affection going on between the people, so the language used is the mother tongue, Amazigh or Moroccan Arabic. Okay, solidarity as well. This is very common here in this area when people, especially in business, or if you go to the souk al-hats, or when they are talking, not doing business, just talking about personal matters, because they are all the time together, they are coming from the same ethnic background. So what do? They code switch to Tamazight. So all these are examples of variables that do have a role in code switching. So let me correct this. Amazigh speakers in SUS switch to Tamazight to address one another when an Amazigh speaker joins them, even though this one speaker is not being spoken to directly. So this is an example of a situation. They could continue in Moroccan Arabic, but in order to include this speaker in the group, they switch codes, to Amazigh, because that's the variable that connects them all together. So code switching can show group solidarity, shared ethnicity, social distance between participants sometimes. Social distance. So I think this one is clear, the example here. So you have people, and then they are all from Amazigh background, but then they were just talking in Moroccan Arabic. But then when another one from the same ethnic background is joining the group, so there is this tendency of shifting to Tamazight, because of this solidarity and to allow the speaker into this group. They shares the same ethnic background, and the social distance is so narrow. There isn't much social distance between the speakers. Yes, we know, you have some song. Now we move on. So, because if you do this, we're going to spend a long time if you take notes. Take notes intelligently, okay? Not everything as it is, okay? Because I think you have study skills. You know, taking notes, you can just use, arrows, things, symbols. You don't have to use words to go quickly about that. Another example of code switching and the variable behind the code switching. For instance, you have this: Amazigh students participating in a discussion in English class, language class in English, change to Tamazigh to talk about their plans for the weekend. It's the reverse of the example I gave you. You are discussing sociolinguistics, okay, and explaining it to each other. So what language you use? Use English, of course, okay? But then you change, you code switch to Tamazigh in order to talk about your plan for the evening or your plan for the weekend, or okay, because the topic here is different. Okay, they could talk about their plans in English, but they are more comfortable doing it in Tamazigh, intimacy, because it's an intimate topic and something very much related to your personality. So you tend to use the language that is intimate as well, your mother tongue. Code switching can reflect associations of certain topics with a language. So topic also plays a role in code switching. And we need to be careful about this idea of code switching, because code switching is regarded differently depending on the context. Okay? Code switching is regarded differently, good or not good, depending on the context where it is used. For example, here, if I start using Moroccan Arabic or Tamazigh explaining sociolinguistics for you, what do you think? Accepted? Not very much accepted, okay? I should do it because the rule says that I should do it in English, okay? The same thing at home, if you are cooking or if you are discussing sports, and then you code switch to, instead of doing it, okay, you start code switching into English, okay? No, it doesn't work. So you have to, so code switching is regarded differently. Some areas it is accepted, in others it's not accepted. But especially in our context, in some areas, okay, in some areas, for example, if you go to marina, cafes, okay, there is this code switching from Moroccan Arabic to French is regarded like a prestige. Yes or no? So you see, the way how code switching is viewed is different from one context to another. In some contexts, it is good, like a prestige, like in these cafes, because of the social class and because of the variables there. But if you do it like I'm teaching you, and then I use Moroccan Arabic or Amazigh to teach you sociolinguistics, it doesn't work. So code switching is viewed differently. Yes, madam?
Sometimes it is applied to talk in your mother tongue when someone is not cannot understand your mother tongue language. So,
Yes, that's another reason. Yes, and we're going to see this. It has to do with the competence in the language. Okay, and we're going to see in the following slide. I think we should move on. Another example. A teacher uses English in class, like me. She changes to Moroccan Arabic or Tamazight to tell off a student when she is angry because the student has consistently not done his or her homework. And I'm going to talk in detail about this example in the end of this lecture today. Okay? Because you can notice that even if I am teaching you sociolinguistics, but in some occasions, especially when the teacher is angry, what happens is shifts code switches to Moroccan Arabic, right? To show that the anger. Why? Because he knows or she knows that the other one will feel the anger, will receive the anger better than just saying it in English. And this is what you have here. A student not doing the homework for several times, it's really frustrating for a teacher. So then, at some point in time, the teacher code switches to the language that the student feels more in order to show the anger. The student would understand English, but the turn-off is more effective in their shared first language. The teacher's anger is more apparent. Code switching can show a speaker's feelings rather than carrying referential meaning. Another variable behind code switching. And we're going to discuss this in detail using one of my publications about classroom discourse and code switching in classroom discourse in primary schools. And we have examples of this. Now, what do you think about these examples? So that's what I was asking you about when I was talking and asking you about examples of situations where you could switch. These are exactly what happens to you, okay, in some of the contexts. He might be in. Let's move on, please. You will have this. I will share it again. Now, in this slide here, I'm going to refer to the point that your classmate has made about proficiency of a language. We need to make a distinction between the real code switching and just language choice that happens from time to time. Code switching is related to to the variables I have just mentioned, okay, social variables. But there are some situations where we change the language because of these reasons. For instance, when the speaker has to change because he is not proficient in a code. Okay? When you just change your language variety because somebody doesn't understand you, okay? It's not a really code switching. It's a choice that you do. Okay? It's a choice. And also, when there is no word available in the codes being used, you are talking, and then you use one word is not available in the language that you are using, and then you refer to another language. That's not really a code switching, okay? It's not a code switching, a real code switching, in the sense, as in the ones that we have seen, which have some social variables behind them. Because the reasons here, they have nothing to do with social variables, yes or no? They are related to proficiency and to the word that you want to use. The word that you want to use doesn't exist in Amazigh or Moroccan Arabic. So you use it in French or, okay? And here there are some other discussions. I don't want to go into the detail. So let's move on quickly. You don't have to write this. This is just an information that I would like to give you. We're going to move into the details a bit of code switching, and here I'm going to talk about the situation of Cantonese speakers in Hong Kong. They use English words in their speech, according to this researcher. So, for instance, Luke 1998, he refers to what he calls orientational switching. He collected data, okay, about different situations of code switching, and then he started analyzing the data. Okay? Now this person is going way beyond the social variables that we have just mentioned. So he's talking about something called orientational switching. What does he mean by orientational code switching? When educated Cantonese speakers have a choice, they may sometimes choose. Yes, hey. So, sit down, please. Sit down. This, yes. I didn't want to intervene because I'm recording for those two guys. But now you oblige me to do this. So please, I already said this. If you answer, I don't want to record this, so please, don't show something. We're going to be done in a few minutes, and then you can leave, and all of us leave, and then you don't see each other. Orientational switching. When educated Cantonese speakers have a choice, they may sometimes choose an English word rather than a Cantonese word if the topic has Western associations and if the two choices are equal in other ways, same level of formality. Here we are talking about two people who are educated, and we know that in Singapore, or sorry, in Hong Kong, they have Cantonese informal, and then the standard is English. So these educated people, when they are talking, they might choose, in some context, an English word rather than a Cantonese word, even if both of them, they are, okay, if both varieties, they sound like formal, they have the same level of formality. Okay? But they might do this, these educated people, they might use the English version word rather than the Cantonese version word. Why? Because the topic has Western associations. It happens to us as well for our culture. We know that there are things which are culture specific to us, specific to our culture, but there are a few things that are not specific to our culture, and in that case we prefer, that's where we see code switching more to French. Okay? Well, I don't know, talking about freedom or what they're talking about. So all those modernist values which they think they come only from the West. Okay? Because it has this Western association, so the tendency goes into choosing the Western version word. In this case here, since we're talking about Hong Kong, they choose the English word rather than the Cantonese word, even if they have the same, okay? And here we're talking about educated people. They are going to talk in Moroccan, Middle Moroccan Arabic. But at some point in time in their discussion, because they are talking about some values which are more related to the West, so there tend to be preference for choosing words that are in French rather than in Middle Moroccan Arabic or in Standard Arabic. But if they talk about something specific to our culture, they use the local, okay, word. So this is orientational switching. The next one is metaphorical switching to fill a lexical gap owing to high frequency, field-specific English vocabulary related to work or studies. Metaphorical switching. It's somehow similar to the issue of topic. It's the same thing. Field specific, English vocabulary related to work or studies. I'm sure that when you are talking, even if you talk in Moroccan Arabic or in Amazigh, and you want to talk about diglossia, I'm sure you are going to use diglossia. You're not going to use an Amazigh version of the word or a Moroccan Arabic version of the word, because you learn it that way. So this is what means this one, metaphorical switching. To fill a lexical gap owing to high frequency, because when you are discussing the sociolinguistics, even if you discuss it in Moroccan Arabic, but the word diglossia, that's the one you use, so you are going to refer to it. Another situation where you can also do code switching is what is referred to here as euphemism, or some kind of emotional buffer. In place of the unwanted taboo words or words carry an emotive meaning in Chinese, I'm sure that among you, many are going to say, when they are speaking Moroccan Arabic, because, for example, talking about the toilets, usually we use it in French. Yes. Why? Because of some kind of taboo, that's what we call euphemism. Yes. That's a reason behind code switching as well. Among your friends, because you think it's something taboo, not good to mention in Moroccan Arabic or in Amazigh, so you tend to use a word from a foreign language which makes the impact of taboo and not good less. People don't feel it the same way if you do it in Moroccan Arabic or in Amazigh. So that is referred to in the literature as euphemism. Emotional buffer. to reduce the emotional feeling you get. If you use it in Moroccan Arabic, the emotional feeling will be high about the toilets. But if you use it in French, okay, yeah, it's no problem. So that's So these three are good: metaphorical, orientational, and euphemism. We have to go on. Code switching is also sometimes considered as something, as a resource, as something good. Because it enables bilinguals to use their linguistic repertoire to respond positively to changes in social factors. Depending on the context, wherever you are, with whom you are, whatever you are talking about. So code switching is considered as a resource. You can code switch from one language variety to another. But in some contexts, this is related to the idea I mentioned to you, that code switching in some points is considered as something good, positive, and in some other places it's considered something negative. It's related to this. So also it is a kind of resource for the bilinguals. If we keep this way, I don't think we're going to be done. So let's go on, please. Now we move on to code switching in education. I'm going to again to start talking about this context here, and then we move on to our context. In Hong Kong, government discourse is portrayed almost as an angly or code switching or mixed code as constructed in Hong Kong government official discourses. It is portrayed almost as an ugly, insidious, monstrous animal widely trampling on and destroying everything, especially young minds. It is not severely controlled and banned from certain important domains, for instance, the classroom. It is viewed as something not good, something really serious, bad, but still they can't control it. They can't control it, especially in a classroom setting where the idea of ugly, insidious, monstrous animal for code switching is so high. Okay? When we move and talk about our context using my publication, it will become clearer. So this is the, let's call it dilemma. Okay? Even in officially in terms of, okay? Because if you look at the law, the constitution, they don't talk about code switching is good. They just focus on the fact that language, one language, etc. It is considered as something bad, but still they can't control it and people keep using code switching. The situation again is worse in education. They consider it as really bad, and again they still can't control it. And this is applicable not only for Morocco, but also applicable for other speech communities like Hong Kong. Don't write this, please, because it will take you too much to write. Just remember the idea. You have to take the idea, okay? You have to take the idea. The Hong Kong government emphasizes the teachers, for example, in education. It emphasizes the teachers should not use mixed code in classroom. Why? Teachers in school are linguistic model for their students. Officially, the ministry, their Ministry of Education in Hong Kong, it tells the teachers, please, you should not, you, particularly you, in the classroom, don't use code switching. You are considered as an example for the students, so you should avoid it. Okay? Students can only choose between two codes if they know two codes. If they consistently hear a mixture of English and Cantonese, their learning of English might be affected, probably not their learning of Cantonese. So for example, because in education in Hong Kong, in the school, in classroom, they use English because that's the standard language. And they want them to learn English, good speakers of English. So if they tend, this is the idea, the rationale behind the ministry. It says that if you, a teacher, don't use standard English, you keep just using code mixing and code switching, you will affect the learning, the students' learning of English, the standard variety. Okay, so therefore they say to avoid. And the same thing is applicable for us in relation to standard Arabic, as I'm going to explain in a few minutes. Code switching in the English classroom. Now here we enter into the classroom setting, and I think it's also applicable for us in high school and middle school. For you, remember your cases. I want you to bring with me your experiences as students when you started learning English in high school, into when we are discussing these points in these slides. Right? Now, as an effective marker of boundaries in discourse and changes in frame, for example, it can be employed to contextualize the following. Change in the discourse topic. In the classroom again, when there is code switching, it has some variables behind it. And these could be like a change in the discourse topic, a shift in the role relationship between the teacher and the students. I repeat this one. A shift in the role relationship between the teacher and the students. Some points in time when the teacher especially is standing in here, like I'm doing, and explaining. That's really a very formal situation in the classroom, right? So I don't use any code switching. But when I am moving around, and then I come to somebody I know much more, so what happens? There could be code switching. That's what we mean by the role relationship between the teacher and the student is different. My role relationship between me and you now is different from when I am circulating and speaking, or when somebody wants to leave the classroom when I'm explaining. The role relationship is different. So you have noticed what there was some Moroccan Arabic in there, okay? So code switching. A modification of the participation framework. Participation framework. For example, when I am speaking with you and I am asking you questions, you have to respond to me. Asking questions and respond to me. This is a participation framework. Here we are moving a little bit beyond the classroom setting and talking about how things happen. But if I ask you to do a homework or an activity among yourselves, the participation framework is different. Yes or no? So the language also, or the code switching, is affected by this kind of participation framework. When we are there's less. But when we are together, there is more of code switching. So these are some of the reasons. And if you remember, the same thing happened when you were learning English in high school. Again, in education, in Hong Kong, or even for you when you were at high school, learning English, the sequence was something like this. L2 English, for us it's not L2, it's L3, okay, or a foreign language, But here we use L2, L1 because we are talking about Hong Kong. Because Hong Kong there is Cantonese is L1 and English is L2. So in the classroom, what happens for the teacher and the relationship between the teacher and the student in their discourse, okay, there is this kind of sequence in their code switching. L2, and then at some points there is L1, and then coming back to L2, L1, L2. It's a sequence that is very common occurring, okay, in classroom setting, in classroom discourse. Right? You understand this point? When the teacher is in the class and he's teaching English, so of course he's going to start in English. But at some point in time, he goes back to L1. And then he comes back to L2, which is English. The same thing was applicable for you when you were learning English in high school. When your teacher was in class. He starts like this, L3, English. And then at some point he shifts maybe to Moroccan Arabic or Amazigh or French sometimes. Then goes back to the dominant, the main language he should use in the classroom. And the sequence goes on this way in the classroom setting, in classroom discourse. Let's continue into these reasons behind code switching into classroom setting. There could be reasons related to the student, and these are called like student-initiated reasons. Students do not understand. Students lack discipline. Individual students need the help of L1. For you, yes. For negotiation and defense. Think about the classroom setting, and this is exactly what happens. And that plays a role into this code switching from one language variety to another language variety. These are the reasons. And these reasons, you can see that they are somehow different from the reasons we have mentioned about the community as a whole. Okay? There could be other reasons, not enough time left in the teaching period. Usually when the teacher is running out of time and he wants to go quickly and he wants the students to understand what he's talking about or what she's talking about, he might code switch to the L1 or the mother tongue or Amazigh or Moroccan Arabic to finish the lesson quickly and then it's done. It's one of the reasons as well. There could be also teacher-related or initiated reasons. Some teachers, when they are teaching English, they enjoy L1, okay? So they tend to change to code switch to L1 usually, more frequently than other dogmatic teachers like me, okay? The teacher is over-worried, especially for young teachers, beginner teachers, when they are starting to teach English, because they have lack of experience, they are over-worried about the teaching, so there might be code switching to the L1, okay, many times, more frequently than other teachers. The teacher considers the use of L1 to be expedient. Now please, don't take this, as I told you, you will have it and then, okay, take your notes. Definitely today I'm going to do this one, maybe if I share it with you like pictures, this one, like pictures or PDF as I told you last time. But please let me go on, okay? I see that you are quite interested in taking notes, but if I give you the time and we have so many things here, we will not finish. So let me go on. Another reason for code switching in the classroom is language proficiency of the students, especially in beginning levels when they start learning English. They don't know English, so the teacher maybe have the tendency to code switch more often to their mother tongue. Sorry. They unchain demands of the English examination syllabus. Okay, that's another. The need to live up to the expectations of the educators or parents. Let me summarize somehow what we have spoken before I move on into the, if we have time. In the beginning, this is what we started talking about, language choice for the community. Okay? Our choice of a language is different from one domain to another. When we are at home, we use our mother tongue, Moroccan Arabic or Amazigh or Tamazight. When we are in education, classroom setting, we tend to use the standard language, not the mother tongue, formal context. In government administration or in business, French and standard Arabic. So the language choice for the community altogether, it is related to domains. And of course, as I told you, all social variables are related. And I'm going to show you this at the end of this schema here. So by individuals, we refer to it as code switching. And as we have explained during this lecture today, this language choice, which is different, and this code switching happens not arbitrarily. As I explained, code switching doesn't happen in an arbitrary way. That is to say, it happens for no reason, just like that. No, there are reasons behind code switching. There are reasons behind our choice of a language variety. And these reasons are related to social factors, setting, domain, participants, or you can call them interlocutors, topic, social distance, status, formality, affective meaning, solidarity. Well, I didn't mention all of what we have seen, especially the ones related to classroom setting, because it's going to be too much, but you can find them in the previous slides. These are for the community altogether. But then again, when we enter into the classroom setting, the code switching has got its own, a bit different reasons, as we have seen, like student-initiated reasons and teacher-initiated reasons. This one I give you all the time to take it. All the notes here. So, because it summarizes everything. Okay. Okay, done? Okay, hurry up, please. Now I'm going to briefly speak to you. I want you all to go back with me into the past when you were 7, 8 years old, 9 years old. You remember those times, especially when you go to school and you go to your classes? 9, 8, 10 years old, right? Now, concerning our context, so we know that when we are at home, we start learning Moroccan Arabic or Amazigh or Tamazight. But when we go to school, we have to start learning standard Arabic, right? So everything is in standard Arabic. Now, the teacher, again, is in a kind of dilemma, right? Dilemma. The students don't know standard Arabic, so they have to be taught everything in standard Arabic. So it's a kind of problematic situation for the teacher. Now, what happens is that the teacher is obliged to code switch. Okay? And this code switching is very related to some variables, like the ones we have mentioned. For example, when you want to give orders, you remember? جلس انت, نوض انت, حل الكتاب, etc. But when the teacher is teaching, for example, قراءة, you remember قراءة? So what is this? What is the language he uses? Standard Arabic. Okay? So these, I don't want to go into the details of this, but these what we call events. When the teacher is giving orders, it's one event. And when the teacher is teaching, for example, قراءة, it's another event. So the code switching depends on these events. Okay? Now I'm going to stop in here, not to make the story long for you, and next time we will finish.